talked with the spirits. Jim chuckled. He did know the future, all the way to the year 2007, the year he left Earth in a spaceship as an astronaut for NASA. It was to be a short trip, then that space cloud, and his return to Earth, over 200 years in the past. No way to get back. No one would believe him now, in 1860, that he was on the Lewis and Clark expedition, or that he had been one of the richest men in St. Louis. He had studied history and knew what was coming, but he didn't count on the smallpox epidemic that took his wife and son. Devastated, Parker wandered the plains for years, hoping a band of Indians would kill him. But they saw him differently. A nomad who showed no fear, and they gave him a new name, Lone Wanderer. He learned survival skills from a trapper named Kit Carson and from the Indians. He wandered among many tribes, trying to prepare them for the future he knew was coming. When he returned to the land of the white man, he realized he hadn't aged. Something in that space cloud had altered his genetic makeup. He would always be 35. Parker rode over a low ridge, and before him, along a stream, was a belt of cottonwoods. A new growth of leaves was beginning to show. He glanced to the sky and figured he had about 4 hours of daylight. He wouldn't find a better place to camp for the night, and he wasn't in any hurry. After staking out his horse where it could reach water, Jim removed the saddle and bridle, then built a fire. He roasted a rabbit he had shot earlier and had his dinner, then leaned back to smoke his pipe and enjoy the spring air as the sun eased down to the western horizon. He thought he might go to Fort Laramie on the North Platte and see who's in charge now, or maybe down the river to Fort Kearney. The war wouldn't start until next year, and there was no telling how big a cavalry force would remain to protect the settlers. The sound of horses broke his thoughts, and he turned to see 3 riders lope into his camp. The lead rider reined to a stop and leaned on his saddle horn. "Howdy. You saw your fire. Mind if we join you?" Jim sized them up. Thick black beards, heavy Mackinaw coats, dirty from many days' travel, each with rifles in their scabbards, pistols holstered at their sides. "You're welcome. I can offer you coffee, but I hope you have your own grub." The men dismounted and walked to the fire. The big man said, "Yeah, we do. They call me Bart. This fella is Slim." He nodded to his right. "And the short one, we just call him Shorty." Jim wondered why Bart, a big man with cold, steely eyes, didn't give their last names. He introduced himself and said, "Where you men headin'?" "Red River. Trappin'." Parker glanced at their horses. "You have 3 riding horses. Where's your pack mule?" The men gave each other hesitant looks. Then Bart said, "Well, we sent a man ahead with a mule carrying equipment and supplies to get started." Bart helped himself to the pot sitting at the edge of the fire. Slim and Shorty followed, draining the coffee. They sat opposite the fire from Jim, looking over Parker's belongings. They made no attempt to go to their saddlebags or pack sacks. Finally Parker said, "I gather you fellas don't have any grub." "Well, finished what we had about noon," Bart said. "I've been eyeing your pack. Looks like you got plenty there." Jim rose and went to his pack sack. He pulled out several pieces of jerky and tossed them to Bart. "There's a little rabbit left in the pan. Help yourself. That's all I can spare." "Well, now, mighty nice of you, Mr. Parker. What else you got in that there pack?" "Nothing of interest to you." Jim was aware of Bart's inquisitive stare, and it bothered him. He'd seen it before, a look of scheming, devising a way of getting what Jim had. "Well, Mr. Parker, by looks of that there buffalo robe and deer-hide jacket, I'd say you spent the winter with some squaw in one of them there villages." Jim slipped the robe across his lap and pulled his pistol from its holster. "You're getting a little personal there, Bart." "How much you want for that robe?" "Not for sale." After eating, Shorty strolled to Jim's horse and ran his hand along its flanks. "Always wanted a spotted horse. I bet you got this one from the Injuns, didn't you? Did you steal it?" Jim stared at Shorty, saying nothing. "Yep, you probably stole him all right," Shorty smirked. "How much you take for him?" Jim saw Bart ease over to the pack sack. Then he answered Shorty, "He's not for sale. I suggest you back away." As Bart poked at Jim's pack, Slim strolled to his own horse and slipped a rifle from the saddle. He cocked it and nodded to Bart.